Rolling start here. Dre's Geek Philosophy. That's the thing I always remembered from the old Daytona video games. It was like when you played in the arcade, it was a rolling start. Just like the race would just start like the cars would already be going. It's always kind of cool. I always thought that was really cool. The concept of a rolling start. So now it's like this podcast always has a rolling start. And if executive producer Sam Zia was here, we'd be a rolling start with weed. It's just one of those days that we have so many things that in the video game world that happen. So a lot of stuff. I'm gonna pop it off right since we haven't done this in a while. Like pop it off right at 8. It'll be like hit the freaking.
Get going.
Just bam, bam. Live from somewhere in Los Angeles. This is Dre's Geek Philosophy, the June 12th edition, the E3 week edition. This week. Tomorrow, the actual show. Like that's always been a small pet peeve of mine. Everybody thinks, "Oh, E3's happening over the weekend." I'm like, "Nah, press conferences are happening over the weekend."
Yeah.
Like all the big news is getting out. All the big publishers are firing their information salvos at each other. The great war of video games that happens every year around this time in the summer. It's a fun time. It's technically is a fun time to be a gamer, but. A lot of my friends have been, to use a word that Sam Zia would use, whelmed.
Whelmed, oh.
They're not overwhelmed. They're underwhelmed. They're very under. All the companies, Electronic Arts, Microsoft, Ubisoft. Just a little while ago, Sony just finished their press conference where they just did all. You had to wait for me to finish watching that because I was trying to make sure I did my homework for the show today, and. Everyone seems pretty disappointed.
Really?
In what transpired over this past weekend. Everyone had different offerings to show us what they're bringing to the show, so to speak. Tomorrow, all the lucky ducks that get to go. Tomorrow, I will not be going, but thankfully, executive producer Sam Zia, he's going. He will use the power of his job. Like with his job, he's able to get in. To E3. I no longer have. I have been thoroughly unemployed for a long enough time where I cannot legitimately get into the show. I'm sure there were illegitimate ways of me getting in, but I weirdly have a weird conscience about it.
Oh wow!
So like my Undertaker-like streak. I would always talk about that. It was a streak. I'd gone every year since 2003.
Wow.
2003. I'd gone every year. Oh no, actually no, 2002. I'm doing the math because I was working at GameStop, so that was 2002. Yeah, I've been to every E3 that was open to the public. There were 2 years where it was 07 and 08 where it was closed to everybody. Like you had to, it was invitation only. Those 2 years I did not go. But then it was in an airplane hangar in Santa Monica. And then the second year, like 2008, they literally had it just, you know how there's that hallway that connects the two convention center halls?
Oh, yeah.
They literally had it in those rooms.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, all of E3, everyone had like an equal, that was the I guess you would say, that was the communist E3. Everyone had equal space. Yeah. So like even the smallest developer had the same amount of space as, a Sony and Microsoft. Oh, wow. It was quite a egalitarian E3 those 2 years, but back in 2009 they brought it back to it's all right. The as old people will say, it's not as good as it used to be, but but a person who says a glass is half full will say this is still better than no E3.
That's true.
And that is my reality this year.
Yeah.
There is no E3 for me. I had one of my close friends. He was trying his darndest to use his work to get me in. But unfortunately, he was even going to lend me his badge, but I told him, like, you know what? That doesn't work anymore. Yeah. I'm like, I don't want you to get your badge confiscated. As I roll up, I'm like, this name, I'm like, show us your ID. I'm like, that name does not match this ID. I'm like, oh, this badge. Oh, sorry. It's like
you just turn around and run away.
Literally, like, take the badge. I'm like, no, but I have to return this badge to my friend so he can actually come here legitimately for his actual job on Wednesday. He's out of town right now. He's out of town right now, or else he would have just let me borrow the badge for tomorrow. But he could not pick up his badge. But big show, so E3, as everybody knows, It's the equivalent of San Diego Comic-Con
Yeah.
for video game nerds. But instead of buying things, you're going there and seeing things that you're going to buy later.
Yeah.
Like in some cases, you might not buy it for 5 years because it could just get delayed.
Yeah.
They'll show you games that like, oh, this is the future of gaming. It's always the big deal of what's going on there. And and I'll be honest, like the last few years, it's funny because last year I was very resigned, like, oh, this is my last E3. I'm not going to come back. And now this podcast, I'm like, shit, I really need it. Yes, I am. Calum on Facebook says, yes, I am on Twitch. It is broadcasting. I am waving. We've been broadcasting for 5 minutes and 30 seconds. I actually turned everything on at the same time this time. I am being a responsible, I'm being a responsible host today. I got all the wheels running, and so yeah. I remember last year is I couldn't. Last year I was like, oh, I'm not gonna be able to get in because like I said, I like to legitimately get in, even though like the first few times I got in it was kind of shady. Because it was a bit more relaxed, the requirements back in the day. So I remember I used my stepdad's business one year.
Oh, really?
Well, because he installed home entertainment and home theater stuff
so
that totally fit in. And I was technically working for him that summer. Mm-hmm. So I submitted the W-2 that because he paid me with paychecks. He wasn't just paying me cash out of his pocket. And he was like, so I remember I submitted everything and I went out California Communications. And then of course I worked for Nintendo. Have a sip. Having one too. But yeah, so like this year I was like, oh crap! I'm like, I actually have a medium where like I know how to get interviews. Like there was one time where Sam and we went to E3 a few years ago, and he was in a wheelchair and he wanted some content because Sam does a radio show for his employer. Damn, I'm about to slip up right now. And I remember that I was still working for Nintendo at that time. So I'm like, oh, dude, I'll get you a bunch of interviews. And I got him into the Nintendo booth, and bam, we got interview. It was right when the 3DS was coming out.
Oh, okay.
And I got him a whole bunch of interviews. Like some of the people that I kind of knew personally who helped, I guess there's a department called the Treehouse. So these are the people that test all the games that like they know inside and out. They work on the games literally, as they're brought over. And I got Sam a whole bunch of interviews. I also hope that Sam was in a wheelchair. He had just blown out his knee, and like, it was hey, handicap access. Hey, would you be? Hey, JC, would you be willing to talk to my friend here and give him an interview? Sam busts out his audio equipment, bam, audio style. Nice. But for I want to do a quick, E3 prep for those of you who are going, those of you who bought tickets, for those of you who actually got. Yeah, now it's like, remember how I said, I'm not going to buy a ticket. Yeah. I have never paid to go to E3, and I never will. Whoops. I probably should have bought a ticket and just expensed it as something for the podcast. I guess
true.
That's something for next year, I guess. Yeah. Maybe if I cannot get in using the podcast, I will have to just buy a ticket like a normal person and then humble myself before E3. I'm like, yes, maybe. I probably should have to make up for like the 14 times I've gone without paying.
That makes sense. Yeah.
But I was a member of the industry for many of those.
Well, not the first year.
Yeah, not the second one. The first one I was working at GameStop.
Oh, okay.
The second one, then I think I went. Yeah, it was just fun times.
Fun times.
I always loved getting in by hook or crook. But so this past weekend. Oh, so yeah. So if you've never been to E3 before, I'm going to give you some quick tips and tricks of surviving E3 as a veteran, a 14 time. I'm like the Ric Flair of E3. I have like world championships. Like, you don't want to bring a lot of shit with you. I used to do that. I used to bring a backpack full of things. I'm like, I'm going to need food. I'm going to bring my DS and all the games. Like, no, that's a rookie mistake. It's like walking around Comic-Con with a backpack full of things. Yeah. It will weigh you down. It will wear you out. It'll make you tired. Oh, Crunchy's watching on Twitch. What's up, Crunchy? I always make the joke of you want to be like Aragorn from Lord of the Rings. Because the advice that he gave the hobbits near the end of the first movie, you need to travel light. Yeah. That way you can move. You travel light. You don't carry as much. Because I remember my first E3, like it was when Kingdom Hearts came out. I remember I was running around. I'd never been to E3 before. I don't think I'd even been to a Comic-Con or a convention. So I saw all these things. I'm grabbing all the things. I grabbed, because that was back then where they just handed you empty bags. Like, it is, oh, here, take these empty bags. Because this was an industry event. You're going to get all kinds of ridiculous things. Like, there was all kinds of stuff they were just handing out. Oh, cases for my Game Boy games. Oh, and then I was grabbing all this paper. Like, I was like, oh, brochures. Before, like during the Stone Age of the internet, they were still handing out brochures, and I would grab all these things and then carrying around these two like 30-pound bags because I grabbed as much shit as I could because I was trying to grab shit for myself, for my friends. I was like, this is amazing. I remember the worst thing is like they used to have, well, back in the era of magazines, back when like there was all these free magazines, like whatever when there were a lot of gaming magazines, they'd have all these gaming magazines out there and like, hey, you can grab free ones. So I'm like, this is amazing. I'm going to weigh down my bag another 20 pounds. What a fool young me was. Well, I was younger and stronger. I was a much younger man. The little 20-year-old Dre was like, yeah, I can do this. I don't care. And now I've learned, like, the last couple of E3s, I'm like, I literally did not take, I normally have my little infamous bag, or like I normally carry a bag around with all my nerd stuff. Yeah. I left this at home.
Nice.
I left that at home. When I walked around last year, it was like, travel light like Aragorn. Yeah. Travel light, walk easy. Second biggest tip I can give someone, eat breakfast before and eat a big breakfast. This is probably similar to Comic-Con. Yeah. You eat before you go. You don't eat there.
No, because you go poor.
You go poor. I mean, it's awesome. They have all these food trucks now. Food trucks are fucking expensive.
Yeah, they are.
My God. And then you eat later. Like, you go to the pantry. You just walk 2 blocks to the pantry. Yeah. This is advice specifically for you. You walk to the pantry. You go over there. Yeah, you need to make sure, you freaking take care of yourself. Mm-hmm. And the biggest piece of advice I can give anyone, especially someone who's never been, you don't wait in line longer than 20 minutes to play a game.
Oh, wow. Really?
If there's anything that takes longer than an hour, it's not worth it. Because you have to keep in mind, depending on what time you get there, you only have a limited amount of time. Because the show is open on the first day, it's noon to 6. You have 6 hours. If you wait an hour and a half to play a game, you have pissed away a third, almost a fourth of your time. Sorry for math majors. He's pissed away a fourth of your time if you wait an hour and a half for a game. I got to play God of War. Especially if it's a game that you know you're going to buy, you should not be playing at E3. You should be playing games that you've never tried. If you're there, you want to try games that you've never tried before. This is an opportunity to expand your horizons. That is what you should use that stuff. Hey, Joseph, what's up, man? My boy from Target. How you doing, Joe? This is what you should use that time for. A lot of these people will wait in line for a game they're a really big fan of. I'm like, that is a poor use of your time. You should be using your time to go play something. I discovered so many games just from because there's a lot of games that are not getting any love whatsoever. There's short lines everywhere of games, these people who are trying to get their game out, small developers, or if you go to a big booth, there'll be some other games that people are not trying. You can go try those, and then sometimes the actual people who made the game will be right there next to you and explain the games to you. Oh wow! And it's that's the kind of interaction you don't get that anywhere else. Where the person who made I remember 2 years ago I played this game called Super Hot. And it was this weird, crazy game. And the guy who made this European dude was there, and he was explaining to me, it was like the Matrix. The game was it was weird. It was weird, kind of like Matrix game. It's whoa, you have to go around, boom, boom, boom. I tried all these crazy weird games because I remember the realization I had was it was Batman Arkham City. Me and my buddy, fellow former Nintendo rep, Pedro Vargas, we got in line. And we're like, all right, dude, Arkham City, hell yeah, this is gonna be awesome. How long is this line? 2 hours. And then we kind of sat there for 10 minutes. We're all right, well, I guess it's Arkham City. Yeah, it'll be worth it. And then at some point, I kind of I was sitting there. I was thinking about how much time we're about to spend. I remember I turned to Pedro and I was like, "Are you going to buy this game regardless of how this is?" Yeah. We should not be waiting in this line. Yeah. Let's go play something else. I remember I didn't Arkham City. That was 2011. I don't know when that. I don't remember exactly when that game was. Mm-hmm. But that was the realization. I'm like, why are we wasting our time here? Yeah. We gotta go. Let's go play something weird. Let's go play some weird games. And that's the best piece of advice I can give in regards to going to E3. Manage your time wisely. I know that whole going and eating something. Yeah, that's right. You eat a big breakfast so you don't eat for those next 6 hours because one day 6 hours, the next day is 7 hours, and the last day is 5 hours. Oh, wow. There's a limit. It's not like Comic-Con where it opens at the crack of opens up early in the morning, goes all the way till the evening. This is a trade show. Yeah. This is not a comic convention. This is not something where I feel I don't want to say people are rubes. Last year, people were waiting in line 4 or 5 hours to play Legend of Zelda. I'm these rubes, they're using up all their time to play a game they're gonna buy already just so they can. Obviously the experience, maybe it's worth it to them. Yeah. But for me, that's not.
And then once you get up there, how long do you get to play?
It's not that long. I'm not sure the Zelda one this last year. You probably get to 5-10 minutes. So I remember this one time, I remember my best friend, oh, you got to go play the new God of War demo for me. And I saw the line, and it was like an hour and a half. I was like, nah, I don't got to play God of War for you, bro. And then there's one year I played Bayonetta 2, and I waited literally 5 minutes. Oh, cool. I'm playing Bayonetta.
Yeah.
And my very first E3, I remember I got to play all the brand new GameCube games. I got to play Metroid Prime and Metal Gear Solid Twin Snakes and Mario Sunshine. And I remember there was no line because everyone was kind of like, oh, Nintendo, kids games. And you go inside the booth. It was a really cool booth.
Yeah.
And like all the games, like they had them in these enclosed little areas. Like it was all black and all you could see was the screen.
Oh, nice.
And like there was a little light, so you could see the person in there would hand you the controller, and all you do is just focus on the screen. It was very immersive.
Cool.
You see the equivalent of a modern VR.
Yeah.
So I'm going to start talking about some of these press conferences. So we had a bunch of press conferences. Joe, you're making me laugh with that comment. Nabby tablet. That seems like a lifetime ago now for me. Nabby. So EA had the first press conference. That was, I believe, on Saturday. My memory is terrible. So forgive me if there's any fake news here.
Fake news.
So Electronic Arts came out and they did their thingamabob. They went out there and they were just spouting out facts and spouting out stuff. One of the things they talked about that kind of bothered me a little bit was they're making a big deal about adding story modes to sports games.
How?
They create a story where well, because a lot of these games they have a thing where you create your own player.
Yeah.
And now they're making it so now there's going to be intense storylines where maybe your player gets kidnapped or bribed or
really?
Heaven knows all kind of I'm speculating on the storylines, but it seems like they're trying to make it more immersive or intense. I'm like, it's a sports game. People play this to beat their friends. At least that's what I did back in the old NBA Live '96 days. It's like me and my friends would play the 3-point contest against each other.
It sounds like who was it? The video game from Rick and Morty.
Damn it! I just watched that episode the other day. Yeah. Oh God, what was it called? You play as a dude. You just live his life. Yeah. Oh wow, he's Roy. It was Roy. A life well lived. Roy, he's taking Roy off the grid. Rick puts on the helmet and Roy just burns his social security card. Taking Roy off the grid. Yeah, and that's the thing. I think that's a symptom of this modern gaming world where the game, the fun of the game is not enough nowadays. Where there's this expectation from both sides where we have to create this really crazy experience to justify the $60, and on the other end, you have all these gamers who are like, I'm spending all this money. I need more than just what you've been giving me. So that's the thing. So FIFA, I was like, FIFA. I mean, millions of people around the world are gonna buy that game. Story mode or not, you're wasting money. I mean, you're literally wasting developer time and money creating a story mode around Cristiano Ronaldo, and then the NBA one, you have to go play games in the freaking the playground. So you got to go with the N1 dudes. Nice. So you got to go play the professor. And all so you have to play it you have to develop your player like that. So
that's kind of, it's kind of cool. But
I see for a person like yourself who you are a writer, you are a person who creates. So something like this would seem like a creative endeavor. How can I make this interesting? So you see this as a challenge.
Yeah.
How can I make this interesting? For me as a gamer, I'm this is annoying. I just want to play basketball. Yeah. And I used to play sport, as I've discussed here before. I can't play modern sports games because they're too complicated. They showed the demo of that NBA game. And they're you have to move the controller to dribble. You're move it back and forth. I'm like, you should just dribble. You just only have to worry about moving the controller. Now I got to do all these things. If you want to do a crossover, you do this motion. I'm like, so it's Street Fighter NBA. So I got to do freaking down circle forward, down forward circle to do a freaking not even to dribble. It was just to dribble to do a crossover. I'm like, okay. I mean, I'm old. Yeah. That's the best way I can describe it. I'm old. They showed this other game, which was kind of interesting. It's called A Way Out. Mm-hmm. Because I feel I thought was going to be a big theme in all these presentations was a couch co-op. Because that's what it used to be like. Back when we used to play games, back in the before the internet, when you wanted to play multiplayer with your friends, they had to come over to your house.
And you just plugged it in.
You just plugged in the extra controllers, and then that's why it's called couch co-op. Now that's been a big theme now in the game industry because they're trying to create this whole couch co-op experience. So it encouraged people to be social and talk to other human beings now, as we did in the olden days. And so there's this game called A Way Out where it's a very interesting kind of prison break game where you play as two characters, and whether you're playing with your friend next to you or you're playing online, the screen is always going to be split down the middle. So you see the person's perspective, and it looks pretty interesting. I think there's a point where you get to fight each other, and you're just like looking at each other in the first person perspective, or like you have to like help each other out. Like they have to crawl up a wall, so they kind of do the arm lock thing, and they put their legs up against the wall, and so each of you have to like cooperatively help each other get up the wall.
That's kind of cool.
So yeah, there's a lot of that. It was a very interesting. I felt that was like for me that was probably the most interesting game that came out of the Electronic Arts presentation. Although most people say there's a new Star Wars game, the new Star Wars Battlefront. Which it's just a big shooter game.
Yeah.
Big deal. Everybody, a lot of people bought it last year, and most people were disappointed because it was very limited. You had to buy a lot of downloadable content. You had to buy all kinds of extra things just to like flesh out the game. And it's funny because they came out and they had a developer out, and they actually had an actress who's playing a character because now they're adding a story mode to show you what happened after the second Death Star blew up, that bridge between Return of the Jedi and The Force Awakens to kind of show you what happened. And they had this one actress. Most of my friends would know her from The League. She was Shiva. Or if you ever watched True Blood, she was a shape. I cannot speak English. There's several words. I couldn't say apocalypse earlier, and now like shapeshifter. She was a shapeshifter on the show. And I remember I was watching that was one of the few. I was actually watching it at one of my side gigs, and I was like, I had it on my phone during my lunch. I was like, oh shit, I've seen her before. I don't know where. And I'm like, oh, it's Shiva. It's the Shiva Blast for my League friends, and for those who have seen her naked on True Blood. She's from True Blood. Yeah. And those who didn't know, you can see her naked on True Blood. FYI. HBO. It's not TV. It's HBO.
Yeah, so and then they have Force Awakens.
There's content from every generation, from like the prequels to the original trilogy to the modern age, and so you can play as all. They have the hero. So you play as clone troopers or the little battle droids. Yeah. You play as rebels, or you play as the Empire, or you play as the First Order or the Resistance. Like those are your regular. And then as you play better, they let you play as the hero. So like you can bust out Darth Maul and start just cutting down clone troopers. They showed the gameplay, and it looked like a lot of fun. Yeah. I mean, I just hope that it's not like, oh, look at all this pretty, because like I remember 2 years ago, it was like this exact same spot. They showed pretty shiny Star Wars Battlefront. Like, this looks amazing. Everyone's super excited. They sold a shitload of copies, and the game wasn't very good. No. So I'm like, did they just put a nice new coat of paint and promise us? They promised a story mode starring Shiva Kamimi Blast. Shima Damina Matimana. That's a League reference. If you've never watched League, I'm sorry. Just Google the League Shiva Blast. There you go. And yeah, so I was kind of like, all right, cool. I mean, everything looked like they showed gameplay. It looked very exciting. It looked very Michael Bay-ish. There was explosions everywhere. Like so many explosions. All the explosions. So, oh my gosh. But that was kind of, there were some other games with stuff. I don't want to go through every single game. I only wrote down kind of like the highlights, because if I just go through every single game, we'll be here till tomorrow. And I can't be here till tomorrow. We can only keep Sam here for so long, who's trapped in the next room. It's like right now the show is just me and Pete right now. So and then Xbox, they had their thingamabob yesterday. They announced a brand new console. That was the big thing. Everyone, because people have been talking about this Project Scorpio. That's what it had been called for the last year or so.
Well, that sounds like a better name than what they went with.
You know. Check out my Xbox Scorpio.
That sounds kind of cool.
Right? Xbox Scorpio. I mean, like, you open yourself up to some, like, horoscope, kind of jokes. But you know what? They went with Xbox One X. Xbox. And, like, people say, oh, they're trying to go like Apple. It's like, oh, it's an iPhone 7S. It's a Xbox One X. And then someone on my Facebook posted today, I was like, oh, if you look at the initials, it's XBOX. And I was like, Xbox. I have a lot of thoughts and feelings about this. This is a stupid name.
Yeah,
it's just a bad name. It's the same problem that Nintendo had when they went from the Wii to the Wii U.
Yeah.
And like, you are only going to confuse consumers.
Yeah.
Consumers are stupid.
They think it's just an attachment to it.
Yeah, they think it's an attachment. Like that's the problem that we had the Wii U. And now you're going to have all these people on Xbox One X. Like, what is it? I mean, is it the same thing? Because here's a good thing. It's a good thing for gamers, but it's a bad thing for people who don't know.
Yeah.
It's going to still play all the old games, that's a great thing for gamers. Yeah. But for someone who doesn't understand, they're going to be like, so wait, are they the same thing? They're going to see an Xbox One. Oh. they're going to see an Xbox One S. That's the slim model.
Yeah. Oh, it's even more confusing.
Yeah, because there was the Xbox One, and then that didn't do so hot. They wanted $500 for it. Didn't do hot. They took out the whole. They had a required camera, kind of like the little camera we have here. This was optional for the PlayStation 4. You don't need that thing. They try to make this a camera for the Xbox One required.
Oh.
It's like, oh, you cannot enjoy the full Xbox One experience without the Kinect.
Yeah.
You have to be able to talk to your Xbox and go, hey, Xbox, turn on.
Yeah.
Hey, Xbox, change the channel. Hey, Xbox, pause the game. For those who truly want to be lazy and want to live in the Wall-E world now and be fat and lazy, the Xbox One with Kinect was the way to go. But that did not do so well. And then they made a smaller version. They called it the Xbox One S. And now we have the Xbox One X.
That just sounds like it's a bigger version of...
And ironically, it's smaller.
That's funny.
Right? Right? This is it's just frustrating to me.
I just feel like there's going to be a lot of people going to GameStop and they're like, I have an Xbox One. Can I just add the X? Like, how do I just add the X?
No,
like,
that's going to be a thing.
Yeah.
I really feel like, consumers are inherently dumb. All my friends here who work at retail, you know this. You've been there. You fought the wars alongside me in the retail wars. You know, people are just, they're not bright. And it's just, well, Microsoft has had a terrible history of naming their consoles. So the first one, Xbox. All right. Cool. It's an Xbox. This is weird, but all right, it worked. But instead of calling the second one Xbox 2, no. We're going to call it Xbox 360.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
So we're going to spin in a circle. I remember that was a joke. Like, we're just going to spin and stay in a circle here. So it was Xbox 360. But ironically, in spite of the kind of dumbish name, it actually did better than the PS3.
Yeah.
Because they had a lot of, like, their online was really good. You could play with your friends. It was really awesome. And then they replaced the Xbox 360 with the Xbox One. It was like...
Yeah.
And then, no, you're just now again confusing me. Xbox One or Xbox? Which one was the first Xbox?
Yeah,
because that's what we were kind of calling the original Xbox One, the OG one. Oh, now it's Xbox OG instead of Xbox One, and now we have Xbox One X.
That's good.
The most powerful game console you have ever created. Now that there are people walking around wearing shirts like that during the press conference, they're handing out those shirts. They're pushing it really hard. Microsoft, they got a whole lot of money, but not a lot of sense. I mean, of course, they've already proven that they don't know how to count.
Yeah, they don't know how to count.
Windows 7, Windows 8, Windows X?
Yeah.
Windows 7, Windows 8, Windows Vista, Windows 10, Windows 10.1, Windows 10.2. We don't know how to count.
Yeah.
We went from 0 to 360 to 1 to 1X. Yeah. We're doing algebra.
That's probably it,
What
right?
does X solve for? X solves for confused consumers.
Like
That's,
the next one is going to be some weird symbol.
It's going to be the Prince of game consoles. Yeah. It's going to be Xbox. It's going to be the game system formerly known as Xbox.
Yeah.
We have amazing games like Computer Blue and Darling Nikki in 1999. The Prince. Oh my God. We have to solve for X. But there were a couple of good things that I did like out of the Xbox presentation. One of which was that, well, I like how it looks. I'm like that. There's a Dragon Ball Z fighting game coming out. I know you're a Dragon Ball Z fan, so you're when I posted that on the page, I'm sure you got a little interested.
I'm kind of excited about it because I'm one of those people that I'm terrible at fighting games, and I want to get into Xenoverse just because it looks cool.
Yeah.
But I know I would suck at it. This I think I might be able to fake.
Because this game is insane. You just smash the button.
Yeah, basically, right?
It's like I'm going to disappoint a lot of people, because I know a lot of my fighting game friends were super excited because this game developer, Arc Systems, they made these famous fighting games. Well, famous within the game community. They're not famous like world famous, but they called Guilty Gear and Blaze Blue. These really like hyper intensive. Yeah. I mean, I'm sure you saw the game, like you watched the gameplay. But it's super fast, which I think is appropriate. It's appropriate as fuck for Dragon Ball. Yeah. Super hyper fast, but personally, I do not like those games. My old man hands, man, I can't keep up with that shit. I think I tried to play Blaze Blue with my best friend Jai, and I was like, nah, this is a pass. Like, this is not for me. The arthritis in my hands flares up just watching it. But I think it's really cool. I mean, I'm sure you saw the gameplay, right?
Yeah, it looks like the freaking show.
It looks like the show. And that's the amazing part of it. I would love to sit back and I will fire up Twitch when people are playing. I will watch the shit out of that game because it looks like the fights from the show. You're like, freaking Kamehamehas and everywhere.
And it was described as like, what was it? It's between 2D and 3D or something like that. Like they're 3D characters, but a 2D environment.
Right.
And it's like I don't know. That's
and that blows your non-gamer mind.
Like, how does that work?
But there's a lot of games like where they use 3-dimensional models, but they move. Right, so they're gonna use models that are gonna look 3-dimensional, but they're gonna stay within a 2-dimensional plane, like a standard fighting game, like a Street Fighter or a Mortal Kombat. That's what they mean by that. They're going to stay on like a flat plane, but they're going to look 3-dimensional. You're going to see they're going to be able to, when they punch, it's not going to be like Guile going. Like you're going to see like it's going to come around, like all the motion, like as you saw, all the motions they're coming around, and I love like whenever you took somebody out and like they meet in the middle.
Yeah.
I'm like, that's so cool. Some of my friends saying this is already going to destroy because of the big competition of the Marvel versus Capcom Infinite that's coming out as well. That's the big competition from them. And the other weird thing I kind of liked from Xbox, it was and honestly, it was kind of a fuck you to Sony, where they announced that the current Xbox One and the Xbox One X, they're gonna play all the old Xbox 360 games, but they're also gonna play the original Xbox. If you still got those discs, if you're like me and you still got a big old box of original games, like you're a collector or a hermit or a pack rat like me. If you still got some of those OG games, you will be able to use them on not just the new one that's coming out, but like the current Xbox One console. Yeah. They're expanding their backwards compatibility, which like if you listen to last week's show, Sony was like, "Why do people want to play old games?" They're like, "No," and as Microsoft's proven, there is it's not a gigantic demographic. It's not a humongous money mover, but it is a demographic. It's a very it's a very vocal minority. It's a very small segment of people, but they're very loud.
Yeah.
And then nowadays with the internet, even the smallest annoyances can be very loud.
Yeah.
So that was actually a pretty cool thing from Xbox. I thought that was pretty cool because there's still a lot of original Xbox games I remember from that system that were really cool.
Yeah.
And I personally, like, if I do ever get around to buying an Xbox One or an Xbox One X, I would not mind revisiting some of my old stuff without having to dig out my old original Xbox. Not Xbox One, original Xbox.
That big brick.
That giant brick of doom. And today there were two more press conferences. We had Ubisoft, the people who are famous for Assassin's Creed. They did a big press conference, like Assassin's Creed, and I forgot what they're the ones who make the South Park game as well. Yeah. The South Park game that was supposed to come out a year and a half ago, but now is barely coming out.
Oh, is this the superhero one or?
Kind of the fractured butthole.
Oh no, that was a different one then.
Yeah, you went. I don't know if you were thinking of the Stick of Truth. Maybe that was one you were thinking of.
No, there was one after that. It was like they were making fun of
superheroes.
Yeah.
Then maybe this is one. This is the one called the fractured butt, hole.
Okay.
But of course, if you say it all like when you see it written out, it's fractured butt, hole. They are fractured but whole. Yeah. But as you say it out loud, it sounds like something else because South Park.
South Park.
I unfortunately I did not get a chance to watch the Ubisoft press conference. I was going to kind of rely on executive producer Sam Zia, but he is indisposed.
Yeah, I think it's like South Park's take on Civil War.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it looks hilarious.
Damn, I really need to follow up on this. But there was another thing that was announced during that Ubisoft conference. The reason why I mention it is there's apparently going to be a Super Mario game. Yeah. Combined with the rabbits from the Rayman Raving Rabbids, like these little crazy things that got announced, and they announced this game. Well, they had announced the game a couple months ago, and the internet had taken a collective dump on it because like, oh, it's Mario and these damn dumb rabbits. Yeah. No, like all the gamers online kind of rebelled and like, no, this is stupid. And then they actually showed the gameplay today. Where it's like this other popular series, like it's a very strategic grid-based. It's like HeroClix.
Okay.
So I can put it in a context that you will understand. Yeah. It is video game HeroClix, my friend. Nice. It's like grid-based. You have so much movement and then you can attack. So they announced that the game is like that. It's Mario characters and these rabbit characters playing on a grid-based, and it's all ranged combat like HeroClix. Nice. And that's what the game is. And the internet was like, I didn't know I wanted this, but now I want it.
Yeah.
And then during this press conference, they actually got the creator of Mario, Shigeru Miyamoto, to come out during the press conference, and then they got the developer from this other game, XCOM. They both came out. They were both holding guns. They're like, there's a great GIF online where the two of them are just they're blasting these fake guns out at the audience, and then the internet's like, shit, I want this game now.
Oh man.
It was quite amusing to see the reaction to that.
Yeah.
I was quite amused. I was just like, oh, all right. Good job, Ubisoft. You flipped the internet on this one. And then there's a new Assassin's Creed. And some of my friends who are Assassin's Creed fans, I saw some of their reactions online. And apparently they're just going further, even back in time, and they're doing like it's kind of thanks to social media, I can see conversations between like my friend Lamar, the one Afro Ninja, who I think is still watching. I'm not sure if he's still watching. He commented earlier. I don't know if he's still there, but him and our producer, executive producer Samsy, they were having a conversation on Facebook, and I saw that conversation regarding this new Assassin's Creed, and it's unfortunately this game has fallen into this trap. That you may be able to relate to in the comic book industry, where they find something successful and they keep doing it every year.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's like a crossover event in comic books.
Yeah.
This is what's happening a lot in the game industry, where like if a game kind of hits, then we need to put this motherfucker out every year. We need to strike while the iron's hot. We need to milk. That's Activision is very guilty of this, where like they milked Guitar Hero out every year, and they slashed and burned that crop to the point of it would not grow anymore.
Yeah.
And that's what's happening with this Assassin's Creed game, where they've worn out the narrative. So now they're going even further backwards in time, because like it started like the Italian, or like the Renaissance era, and then it went forward from there, and everything tied into this crazy story. I hope you never subject yourself to that poor Michael Fassbender film.
I saw bits and pieces of it, and I was very confused.
No, yeah, because like you find this guy who's an ancestor, and you send him backwards in time to go relive the memories of his ancestors, so he can find things in the present. And my brain already hurts from explaining that.
Or is it just like psychological?
No, it's all mental. You delve backward. You go into the memories, like because apparently in your DNA,
there's memories.
Your DNA remembers everything. It knows what your ancestor ate for breakfast. Like, what in the fuck?
Yeah. And they made a movie out of this.
Like, I couldn't even write this in a fever dream.
And Michael Fassbender agreed to this.
That shows you the power of money, dude. Yeah. Michael Fassbender's a good ass actor, but he got on this one.
Yeah.
To paraphrase the conversation from Jay and Silent Bob that I always like to bring up, you do your indie movie, then you do your payday movie, then you do your payback movie with your friend who won't let it go. This was a payday movie for him. I'm sure whomever funded this film said, "Dear Michael Fassbender, here's all the money. Please do this stupid video game movie. It'll only be 30 days out of your life."
Yeah.
And you're going to get to like jump around and be strapped to this harness and be immensely embarrassed for the rest of your life. And I'm sure poor Michael Fassbender's like, where do I sign? I have a summer villa I have to pay for.
Yeah. They're like, hey, you get to go to Comic-Con and E3. Like...
I mean, like, he's no stranger to that. I mean,
yeah.
But Assassin's Creed, I am very feels bad man.
Yeah.
When it comes to that series, because I remember the first one. I played the first one. I didn't like the first one, but I've been told that the second one and the third one are the high points of the series, and it just went downhill from there as they were forced to pull down their pants and crap one out every single year. Like I'm gonna come back to that point. I want to hit that point a little bit hard near the end of the episode. I'm gonna hit that point about this whole sequelitis, because that's what you see a lot of. So Sony, literally 2 hours ago or 2.5 hours ago, Sony had their press conference. I watched it happen live. I got home from my other gig and got home, fired up the computer, and I watched Sony do their press conference. That was the thing about the Xbox. So let me bring it back full circle. During the Xbox conference, it was talk. Look at how cool everything is.
Yeah.
We are amazing. Look at how amazing everything we are. It was talk. They wheeled out for a racing game. They unveiled a brand new Ferrari. That has nothing to do with video games. I mean, like, maybe you can play as that Ferrari in that video game, but on the stage they wheeled out this giant Ferrari.
Yeah. Just because.
just because, like, hey, we're doing this awesome racing game, and look, we use real cars in this game. Look at this real car, and it was like there was talking, so many talking heads.
Yeah.
Like from all the highlights I've seen, it was an inundation of talking heads. Where the Sony press conference was literally the diametric opposite. There was one talking head because me and my friends, we were messaging each other during the Sony press conference, and we're like, okay, every time they say VR, you have to take a shot. Like my friend Kiet Iceberg fam, he said, oh yeah, you gotta take a shot. And I'm like, do you want to give everyone alcohol poisoning? Because we kind of expected, like, because for Sony, their big thing is that VR helmet. So we were expecting, okay, they're gonna say VR like 50 times. I'm like, oh my god. I'm like, it's a good. I'm like, well, if I didn't have the podcast to do tonight, I totally do this. I take a shot every time they say VR. They only literally said it like 4 times.
Oh wow.
Like there was one talking head who, like, it was like the Sony show. Like they started with a freaking this 4-piece band just playing like one was on a sitar, one was on a flute.
What the hell?
They're playing this very Middle Eastern music, and it was like. And then I remember, like, I was watching the Twitch stream, and like all the comments were like, "What's going on?"
Yeah.
Because they went on for a few minutes.
That's weird.
It was and like and it was just they showed some graphics in the sand, and all of a sudden, boom! It just jumped right into Uncharted.
Oh.
So there's a new Uncharted game where the leads are 2 ladies now.
Oh wow.
It's no Nathan Drake. We had 2 ladies.
Yeah.
It's like female power.
Female power.
Hell yeah. And then there's a new Uncharted game, and then from there they rolled right in. They went trailer into another trailer. A new game that just came out this last year, Horizon Zero Dawn. Oh, there's new content coming out for that. There's a winter content. So I'm like, oh, cool, winter content, awesome. And then after that, they went into this other game. I didn't remember it. Thankfully, some of my friends had remembered it. It's a game called Days Gone, or as I called it, The Walking Sons of Anarchy Dead. Because they literally just showed gameplay of this guy riding his motorcycle through like an apocalyptic world, and he's trying to find his buddy, and like he's sneaking around, he's setting traps, he tricks them, he unleashes a shitload of these like not zombies onto this other gang, and he rescues his buddy. They have a fun little you know, let's lighten the mood of all the death with some hilarity. Some comedy, and bam, like they do that in a Days Gone. Like, what the hell? Like, and then one talking, and then the guy from Sony came up. Thank you so much for coming. Da 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 da. Only like literally like a minute or two of talking. And I'm like, let's get back to the trailers. Boom, trailer. It was just like all these trailers. Mm-hmm. They hit you with all kinds of other stuff, and they did a whole bunch of VR trailers, and they literally put the crowd to sleep.
Oh wow.
Because they kept panning back to the crowd, and the crowd was kind of like, the crowd goes meh, because like they showed all these VR games where like you gotta have the helmet and all this stuff, and like, all right, it was kind of like, all right, cool. We were sitting there kind of making fun of all the VR games as they were happening. As exhausted producer Sam Zia joins us right over here. So they showed a bunch of these VR games, and they literally puts the crowd to sleep, and then they wake the crowd up with as soon as they're done with VR. Mm-hmm. Like I said, like at that point they'd only said the words VR twice. I mean, they showed VR games, but there was literally no speaking. It was all trailer. It's like the show on Access TV, nothing but trailers, and like that. And that's what the Sony press conference was like. And then they wheeled out. They showed a God of War trailer to get everyone amped up. All of a sudden, whoa, God of War! And then apparently he's Father of War. He has a son.
Oh yeah, was this from last year's or this year's?
This is this year's. No, they showed a lot of it. They showed
last year. They did the premiere of that game, and it showed a lot of the interaction between
him and his
Kratos and his son.
And it's funny. A great moment for me was during as me and my friends, because me and a lot of the Sword Bear guys, we were chatting back and forth. We were chatting back and forth on Facebook Messenger, and they're like, when did he have time to have a kid? And I was like, did you guys forget all the fucking mini games? When all the games, he's literally having sex in every game. They're like, oh shit. I'm like, yeah, pretty sure there weren't any rubbers in ancient Greece.
Well, you know, they did back in the day. You know, they the
lambskin.
Lambskin. Like they had an entire rabbit on his dick.
I feel pretty confident that that Kratos didn't carry any lambskin with him. When he
rabbits,
or rabbits, or any small mammal. I don't think Kratos allowed any small mammals to get in the way of his fornication, so to speak. I love dropping that. I was like, guys, he fucked a lot.
His junk was so big it was 5-nication.
Yeah, I mean, well played, sir. Well,
actually, technically 8.5-nication.
8.5-nication. You would have find a Trojan Magnum rabbit for him. You're,
giant rabbit. Like, you know, like,
I am the God of War. Ba-da-da, ba-ba-da-da-da-da. Yeah, but that trailer, that gameplay looked really cool. Like there's this awesome scene where he throws his axe into this giant lake, and a la Excalibur, like the axe comes back, and this giant freaking serpent comes out, and apparently his son speaks serpent, so apparently his son is Harry Potter.
nice.
And then like, son, what did he say? He says he'll help us, and that's where they end the trailer. Like, there's a whole bunch of other interactions where they show this female talking to Kratos, and I messaged my friends like, yeah, it looks like he's getting laid again.
Like, son, wait outside.
Son, wait outside. Bong, 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 bong. You're going to watch all these pots get broken. Because that was always the curiosity of all the God of War games. Like, they wouldn't show you, but you could hear the fornication going on. And they show everything around the area, around the room getting broken. I think it was like the first game they just showed this vase bouncing back and forth, and then eventually falling off falling off the table. Like, he was doing all the same sounds that you would do in combat. Except contextually, they sounded a whole lot different. He only had one blade of chaos he was using right then.
Oh.
Hey-o.
Hey-o! Honest, I'm so glad I put Sony last, because I was really saving a lot of these dick jokes for this part. Like, Sony, and then, like I said, Sony, they sent out their talking head like one more time. He talked for like another minute. He's like, "Thank you so much for that." And then there's one last thing, and then they show. And then they took a dig at Microsoft because during the Microsoft press conference, they go, Xbox One enhanced, or One X enhanced. Like there was no real exclusives. Like they were like, everything was like, it's enhanced on Xbox One X or Juan X.
One X.
Solid for Juan X. And so the little dig, check out this exclusive on PlayStation, and they showed Spider-Man.
Nice.
Yeah.
And
that was what the rumor was, that they were going to throw Spider-Man out there.
yeah, and it's made by Insomniac.
Yeah.
Oh, it's
Our
freaking.
good friends here in Burbank.
That's right. Insomniac is based in Burbank, nearby.
Yeah. A good, maybe less than 5 minutes down the road.
I don't know from where you speak of which. I don't know from where you speak of which. Down the road. I don't know what road you would take, sir.
No, I'm not mentioning a road. I'm just saying the road.
But yeah, that Spider-Man game looks
It
pretty
looked
cool.
really good. I kept saying it's Batman Arkham Asylum. It's Batman Arkham City, but with Spidey. Like they showed a very long, extensive actual gameplay trailer. It wasn't just a fancy trailer, just like, hey, look at this cool stuff that we manipulate. No, they showed actual gameplay of Spidey going through and literally Batman in a bunch of dudes.
Yeah.
But with all the Spider-Man, like he's like throwing webs, he was doing all kinds of cool stuff, hanging dudes with webs, freaking. It was pretty cool. They showed a lot of the interactivity as he's swinging through the city. We're like, I need to stop this crane. Fuck my life. Fuck everything. Oh my fucking god. Holy shit. And it looked like it's going to be a lot of fun.
Yeah, but the one thing we talked about was that costume is awful.
The costume, yeah, I completely agree with you. The costume that they have chosen is terrible. The Spider-Man costume.
Oh, yeah?
The logo in the middle is white. It looks, if I could be lewd for a moment, it looks like a map of Hawaii on his chest. It looks like the Juggernaut was like put a Juggernaut on his chest. The Spider-Man, I'm the Juggernaut, and he just blah.
Yeah.
Wow.
Sorry, people, it's not a kids show. And it just looks unseemly. I don't like. Your Spidey's supposed to be black and red and blue.
Yeah.
Like, I'd never seen a version of the Spider-Man costume where it's a giant white spider.
And he's got one on his back too.
And it's on the back too.
Yeah.
I didn't even notice.
Yeah.
But as we discussed in the pre-show meetings, like much like a lot of video games, I'm sure there's some alternate costumes.
Yeah.
Like you'll be able to have a Venom's costume or like a classic Spidey costume.
That's just
or
DLC waiting to happen.
oh yeah, no, it's
The
like
movie costume.
the movie costume or the Civil War costume or whatnot. You had me at Juggernaut. You're welcome, Jai. I'm working on some more jokes for you, brother. Yeah, or for our friends who are hardcore comic fans, a Scarlet Spider costume
kinda cool.
with the hoodie and everything,
Yeah.
with the spider hoodie. But even with all this that I've talked about, as I said, a lot of my friends are very underwhelmed at the amount of games, or I guess at the amount of quote unquote news that's come out of these press conferences.
Well, the one thing that I know is that I watched the Ubisoft one earlier.
Yeah. Please talk about. I
Or
didn't.
Ubisoft.
Oh yeah, Ubisoft. Oh!
Ubisoft, you need Viagra.
There was one year they actually wore shirts where it said "U" and there was a B in soft
Yeah.
on their back.
Yeah. Give me about 20 seconds and I will continue my point on Ubisoft.
You have something.
I have a button to push in about 30 seconds.
You go push that button, sir, and I will tap dance a little bit because I just professionally tap dance. And by tap dance, I mean talk about nothing.
Nothing about nothing.
So, a lot of my friends are very underwhelmed at all the content, and I'm not. I think that everyone is spoiled nowadays.
Yeah.
I think that we have gotten too used to like Megaton announcements, or like I think that everyone's expectations are far too high now.
Yeah, that makes sense.
And I feel this doesn't just apply to video games. I think this applies to all forms of entertainment.
That's true.
Like we're like that. Like everyone like we all expect more now. We expect everything that we dream of.
Well, you can't blame us. I mean, look at the technological growth that has happened over the last 15 years of video games alone. We are used to having our minds blown at E3.
Yeah, but okay, and then let me counter that argument. See, now that we have all this technology, the resources it takes to create these games is exponentially more.
Oh.
It is so much harder because back in the days of PS1, you could have a team of 20 guys make a game. And that's where, like, if a game didn't sell, I feel like I'm echoing probably some stuff I said last week, the week before. It was a lot easier to make games back in those days. Now, I mean, even a crappy game still requires like a few million. Like we've seen on Kickstarter, people need millions of dollars to make a game. Even a crappy little game requires multiple $1 million. Where before, in the old days, you could make a game for like $100,000,
Yeah.
and no problem.
But now the amount of money that goes into video games, like just as far as the buying,
It's obscene.
It's obscene. So they now have the money to pay for the staff and the development.
But as development costs grow, then so does the bar for success. I was having this discussion with some of the Sword Bear guys earlier, where like now a lot of these developers, they have to kind of quote unquote sell out and make these games that come out every year of lower quality because before a developer would spend multiple years working on a game. Now they only can they have to try to make a game every year, and they have to try to make it better than the year before in such a small time frame. Where you're literally sacrificing people's lives at the altar of this industry. I'm not even saying
An example is Ubisoft's own
Assassin's Creed. Yeah, I was just talking about that earlier. How like it was a great game, but now like they're forced to make it every year.
Well, they stopped doing that, fortunately. So hopefully, going into Origins, there may be a little bit more.
I hope so, but that's a symptom of this industry now.
But talk about a game that went from like, oh my god, this might be the most mind-blowing gaming experience that we've had so far, to one that's just been a bitter disappointment.
A meh game.
Yeah, well, because there is too much expectations for them to release something every year, and they did the right thing by going back to the drawing board on this one. That was part of the major part of the Ubisoft presser earlier today, was all the stuff going into that. They had about 30 minutes of gameplay that they had after their press conference available for people to watch. But did you see this one great thing that came out of that Ubisoft press conference?
The Mario
Rabbids and Mario.
I saw that.
Up.
Yeah, I talked about that. I had mentioned earlier on the show that the internet, when this first was announced like a month or two ago, it was announced a month ago, and the internet took a dump on it.
Yeah.
But they showed the gameplay where it's basically XCOM.
Yeah.
And then the internet's like, okay, no, we're okay with this.
Yeah, what is
And Miyamoto holding a gun coming out with the XCOM developer. I was like, okay, yeah, this is fine. We want this now.
It's a tactical turn-based game. It
It's
looks like it's
XCOM.
going to be a lot of fun.
It's XCOM.
Yeah.
It's your grid-based. I was explaining. I put it in context for Pete to understand what type of game it is, and it looks like it's going to be really cool. It's for obviously it's for the Nintendo Switch, so maybe I'll pick it up. But
also, South Park looked great, and then the mobile game that they came up with looks awesome.
there's a mobile game as well.
Yeah, it's called South Park Breaks Your Phone or something like that.
Oh, really?
Nice.
Yeah, I didn't catch it.
It
So, yeah,
was pretty good.
I was unable to watch the Ubisoft conference this morning because I was working. I was working a gig.
Yeah.
I had to go make donuts.
McDonald's.
I had to go make donuts because the rent ain't gonna get paid.
I was studying.
You were studying.
I
You took a break.
Yeah.
You took a break from studying, so you can watch it.
It was for Ubisoft. I was very impressed, just because every year they put out a great presentation. At E3, they have arguably the most crowded area of all of the different gaming companies.
That's true. I remember last year we were trying to walk through, and it was like I almost broke one of my rules last year when we were about to wait in line for South Park, and it's like it's an hour from here. I'm like, nah, not worth it. And then we went to go play Rocket League or something after.
But yeah, no, there's the South Park game looks epic.
It's a superhero. Are making fun of superheroes? Okay, so it is a game you're talking.
It's going to be based on the Coon and Friends storyline.
Oh, okay.
So it's going to have Mysterion and Coon and all of that.
Because Pete was saying it makes fun of like the Marvel Comics Civil War.
Yeah, it's making fun of not just that, but also the fight between DC and Marvel.
Ah, amazing.
Like, isn't there like a chart? It's like the movies and it's like Netflix series.
Yeah, and basically, like the characters themselves break down how the saga is gonna go. Which ones are gonna be Netflix-based ones? Which ones are gonna get their own feature-length films? When the ensemble film is gonna happen?
That is hilarious.
It's brilliant.
I mean, you gotta always give the South Park guys credit. They're very clever. They know how to keep their stuff relevant and fresh and hilarious.
Yeah. A game that surprised me, because the first game, I liked the idea, but concept, like I liked the concept, but the execution was crap. And they made a sequel to it, and it looks good. The Crew.
Ah, The Crew. Ah, yes. They showed the third one today. That's going to have like tanks and like helicopters and planes.
Planes, helicopters, boats, and cars racing.
Oh, that's insane.
That's pretty cool.
So when I was working at GameStop, I noticed that game, and a lot of people were like it'd get traded in, but then someone would buy it right away, and I'm like, what's up with this Crew game? I'm like, well, what is this Crew game?
Yeah, there's a few games that Ubisoft, of course, that the major announcement obviously was the Rabbids and the Rabbids and Assassin's Creed, but they looked like, of all the companies, because I didn't get a chance to see Bethesda's.
I know some of my friends were watching the show because they showed Fallout VR. Yeah. They showed I think it was Doom VR. They showed a bunch of typical Bethesda. You know what's funny? I've always been kind of like, I hate to admit this, I have never been a real fan of Bethesda, and I've never really played their games. And honestly, subconsciously, it's because they've always had a booth that you could not access at E3. Even in the old days, they had a booth, but it was literally only for appointment only. Yeah. So I remember even young me was like, "Who the fuck do you guys think you are? You can just have a private booth." Because now everyone has a private booth now. I mean, everyone does private booths now. They were the first ones to do it in the old E3 days. You'd walk up and maybe they'd have a suit and armor outside for like Elder Scrolls, whatever it was back then. And I always subconsciously was like, you know what? Fuck you guys. Fuck you and your friggin' like not letting in, having nothing for us to see. Yeah. They have this. They'd have this mono. It looked like it was straight. It looked like it was a monolith out of like freaking Space Odyssey 2001. It was like this big monolith of a booth. Just like, Bethesda. Like, we know we make games that people get addicted to. Like Fallout.
Vietnam also just pointed
out. Beyond Good and Evil 2?
Beyond Good and Evil 2.
I've never played the first one.
The first one was solid. I played when they re-released it, I think on PSN. And it's good. That's my understanding. That's one of those that requires a sequel. This is like 10 years past.
At least 10. I bought a copy of it when I was working at GameStop. I remember me and the girlfriend I was dating at the time, we had intended to play it. I don't remember if I bought it on GameCube or PS2, but I know I have a copy of it somewhere in my vast game collection. I just never really got to it. Because what kind of game would you? I've never played it. So what kind of game would you say it was? Executive Bruce MZ?
Kind of computer point and click style.
Oh, so kind of like the classic adventure.
Yeah, it's got it's a great adventure game. So I'm good with that. This is a sequel. I'm definitely excited.
So so from what they showed from the sequel, would you say, or is it still an adventure, kind of like all of the Telltale games, or is it now, or have they shoehorned more of an action game into it?
I have no idea how they're approaching it. I didn't get to see too much of it. I just saw that they had it.
They had it? Okay. Because I'm very curious to see that if, in order to try to make it more commercially viable, if they alter it. Because that's another thing. That's another thing. A lot of these sequels, like as you and I discussed a little bit last week, sometimes a lot of these newer games don't necessarily live up to the original expectations. Yeah. because sometimes they always complicate things. I like when you were in the other room, I was talking about how the new NBA Live, they incorporate dribbling into one of the sticks.
They did that years ago, and it sucked.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. That's what I was telling Pete. I'm like, they overcomplicate these sequels.
Well, the logic behind that was because the guy who was like the director of EA Sports at the time was a big hockey guy.
Because they did that in
right
NHL.
That right stick for deking and stuff makes sense.
It makes sense in a hockey.
Yeah, it makes sense in a hockey game. It doesn't make any sense for as far as dribbling and crossovers go.
Yeah.
Like, and granted, 2K with their NBA game, with NBA 2K, you can use the thumbstick to do crossovers and stuff, but it's not like the way they're trying to control it the way EA did with their game. There's a reason why EA continually falls off the map with NBA and puts out just lack of quality.
They've had to continually take time off. I mean, like when
they took 2 years off of the series. They keep going away and trying to go back to the drawing board and re-release a product that's better, and they continually fall short. They need to give up. Honest to God,
I honestly thought they had given up on NBA.
They should have, honestly. But if they wanted to be honest with themselves and say, you know what, we are going to play a good basketball game, they need to go back to the days of EA Big and re-release NBA Street.
Oh God, I love that game.
NBA Street Volume 2 was arguably one of the best basketball games ever made.
Agreed.
They need to go back to the days of EA Big.
God, Volume 2 was so good.
Brilliant game. Soundtrack was outstanding.
Oh.
Gameplay was tight. Awesome.
So I remember I logged so many hours in that game.
That was a great game.
I had so many created characters in that. It was pretty awesome. And then I remember, although I did enjoy part 3. Well, I bought part 3 on the GameCube.
Yeah, it wasn't as good.
Well,
I played it on PS3. I was disappointed. It tried to go more realistic. Less cartoon.
Let me tell you why I enjoyed part 3. Because it had Mario and Luigi and Princess Peach in the GameCube version.
Yeah.
Nice.
And that was hilarious. That kind of I felt like that kind of put the bee in the bonnet of Nintendo to make Mario Hoops 3-on-3 later on. And it was a lot of fun. But yeah, like the game industry, I don't know. I honestly feel like at some point in the next few years they're gonna reach this crux where it's gonna burst.
Yeah.
Like I hate to like put this spectrum on. Like I feel like when GameStop finally goes under, I think that's gonna be like that's like the big sign of the gaming apocalypse. Like when GameStop kind of like fails eventually. I mean I have a lot of friends who work there. I don't mean ill will to any of them, but when this model of buying and selling games, like the game industry, I think it's gonna have a collapse in the next 5 years, I think.
It's going to have, if it wants to avoid a collapse, it has to recreate itself somehow.
Yeah.
And in a way that's more consumer supportive.
Yeah. And then that's very true. Like I feel like it is avoidable, but if they continue with this like constant need to like put out the same crap every year to try to like capitalize on the stupidity of people, I think some people are just gonna like play primarily like phone. Like I feel a lot of gaming is moving on like phones and stuff like that. Like you see, I mean, I don't want to like freaking suck Nintendo's dick pretty hard, but they're constantly trying to do something different. Because I think they foresee that like the current model doesn't work, so they're trying to do different things. Where I feel like Sony and Microsoft are like because I look at everyone's reactions to what we just saw. Like, these were some actually pretty amazing games. From what I've seen, all this stuff looks pretty cool. It looks pretty fun, but you see all the reactions online. Worst E3 ever. Whatever. I don't care. I don't care about these games. Why don't I have this game that I want? Why aren't the games I want being made? Yada yada yada. Why isn't obscure title X or obscure title Y? I want the. Everyone's very. A lot of gamers, I feel, are a little too. They're very selfish about their gaming, where they only care about what they like, and it doesn't like fuck everyone else.
Yeah.
And it's very symptomatic in this whole. And I feel like the industry right now, it doesn't look like it's in trouble, but I feel like it something else that was mentioned by one of my friends earlier, not on here, but all these developers, like if you make one bad game, you go under.
Oh yeah, because people put hell, you don't even have to make one bad game.
You make one mediocre game.
No, you could just not complete a game and you go under because the expenses are so high.
Yeah.
Just look at what happened to freaking Kurt Schilling.
Yeah, 38 studios. Yeah, like it's such a fragile time to make a game. Like unless your game is like a Call of Duty or something like you run the risk of going out of business because you're employing so many people. There's so many lives are I mean literal like the livelihoods of a lot of people are at stake at the whim of a bunch of fucking entitled assholes.
Yeah.
If a bunch of gamers suddenly decide your game's not cool, your studio's done.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
And if you sell out and make something that's commercially viable, then everybody hates you. It was a quote I told my friends. Like it's literally like the Dark Knight. You either die a hero, a bunch of these developers who go under and everyone fondly remembers them, or you live long enough to become a villain.
Yeah.
Bungie or DICE or all these developers
EA,
who Activision. Yeah, Activision. I was just saying because back in the old days of GameStop, when we'd go to these managers conferences, Activision back in like 2003, they were a fun company. They would like sit there. They made fun of everyone else. Their presentation was really cool and awesome and fun. Like they looked like they were having a ball, amusing all of us GameStop managers. Where I feel like now it's just like it's like super corporate and it's like here's our portfolio of IPs that will make your company a lot of money. We're like 13 years ago, 14 years ago, like we make a bunch of cool shit. Check out this cool World War II game that we're making called Call of Duty.
Yeah.
Check out all these awesome weird games. So, hey, we teamed up with Blizzard. Look at all this cool shit that we're doing. This is amazing. We're like they were more of a fun company, and now they're the evil empire. They've lived long enough to become the villain. Now everybody
they've been living longer than most.
Yeah,
they've been at it for a long
they've
time.
survived longer than everyone else,
Yeah.
and now they're the big like. I remember they were the alternative to the evil EA.
Yeah.
And now they've replaced EA as the evil empire with Call of Duty and Destiny and all, and they are in partnership with Blizzard, so World of Warcraft and all those IPs.
Yep.
So like now they're the big bad guy now with something they fought against 10, 15 years ago.
Well, this is where they wanted to be, though.
Yeah,
Creating games that every year are cash cows.
Then that's true. They have become the villain.
Yeah, this is what they wanted to be from the beginning.
Yeah, now they're successful. They're kind of cool back then, but now they're the villain.
And they're known for like over milking their IPs.
Guitar Hero. I mentioned that earlier.
Exactly right.
They
just overexpose it and they ride it until the wheels come completely off.
Yeah, until it can't make any more money.
Yeah, they did the same thing with Tony Hawk.
Yeah,
And
Tony Hawk was another one.
Yeah.
My God, that was an amazing series at the very beginning.
Yeah.
And it would just burn to the ground.
Yeah. Whatever happened to EA Big, by the way?
I don't know.
Seriously.
SSX, NBA
SSX
Street.
was badass. NBA Street, badass.
I'm trying to.
They had a football game that was kind of sort of the same. It was
NFL Street?
NFL Street.
It was NFL Street.
Yeah, they had a lot of good stuff.
Yeah,
on
FIFA Street.
Yeah, and then it just fell apart.
I don't know, man.
Yeah.
Like I said, like a lot of these studios, they kind of just.
They're saying the
Yeah.
show is running over on PlayStation.
I don't give a.
care. Kiss our ass.
This is my show. We're not on a network.
Congrats to the Golden State Warriors. They beat Cleveland Cavs.
Oh, the Warriors won?
Yeah.
The nightmare season is over. All right, hooray. We cannot care about basketball till November.
Can we get to the draft now?
Can we skip the draft so the Lakers can screw up? Yeah.
No, they'll find a way.
They'll find a way. But this E3, it's going to be very interesting. And then tomorrow morning, Nintendo's going to do their song and dance because now, it's, like I said, they don't follow the rules anymore. Or they do their own thing. Tomorrow at 9 a.m., they're going to do their own video presentation that they've curated and done on their own. Like they don't have to worry about gaffes.
Yeah.
Like on the Twitch stream that there's Sony was having audio problems during the first 10 minutes of their presentation. You could hear all the band, the little sitar playing very well, but all of a sudden when they got to the trailers, you couldn't hear any of the audio.
Oh.
It was like you could barely hear it. It was like they had the live mic, the audience mic on. Like, I'm sure as an audio person yourself, you probably would have been able to diagnose it within like 5 seconds.
Oh yeah, and usually it's somebody that's overwhelmed with a board in front of them that screws things up.
Yeah,
Or
so
they're just being distracted by something around them.
Probably.
Usually that's nice.
Something happened, but it's going to be an interesting show. We're going to see what comes out of it. I mean, the great thing about nowadays, we have the internet, so all this information is at our fingertips. Where before you had to literally be there. I remember, like back in the late '90s when I was working at this video game store called Game Stuff back in the day. It's like you'd have to send people with camcorders to record everything, and like you wouldn't be able to get information until the magazines put it out 2 months later. Now it's like we literally have. I watched the Sony press conference from the comfort of my couch.
Yeah.
Like, amazing science, technology. This is science. So we'll see what happens. I'm sure I'll mention whatever Nintendo does tomorrow morning. I'm sure we'll mention it next week, or maybe I'll do a short video tomorrow afternoon or whatever. Oh crap! I won't be able to watch it tomorrow. I just realized I won't be able to watch Nintendo's conference tomorrow.
Oh.
Got another gig for tomorrow. Woo! Making that money. Yay! Lots of free time.
I will be at E3 tomorrow.
You will be at E3 tomorrow.
For a little bit on Thursday.
Well, Executive Producer Sam Zia will be at E3. I know a friend of the show. Lamar will be there. Oh, Angel on both Xbox. Yeah. The Xbox One name reminds me of gamer tags, like XBOX, where you put X's in the front and the back, so you can get what you want. That's what the Xbox. I know another friend of mine mentioned that on Facebook. So, all right, I feel like it's a good time. You probably need to go home. We need to go home. Yeah. So, all right. You can follow Sam at SamZ570, at SamZ570 on the Twitters. You can follow Pete Malini at nostalgic_comics.
Yeah.
I forget every week now.
Oh, yeah.
You can follow me at
Bushwhacking my way through.
You can follow me at Dre GP Podcast on Twitter. If you're listening to this on either SoundCloud or iTunes, you could find the show and watch it on video on Facebook at facebook.com/Dre GP Podcast. This guy over here. I am your host, Dre Cervantes. These guys are jackasses. Thank you so much for watching and or listening. You guys have yourselves a good night. Thanks.